It was one of those golden afternoons when the city felt alive, the air soft, the sun low, the roads shimmering after a light drizzle. Anna adjusted her scarf as she hurried through the crowded terminal, her heart fluttering with nerves and excitement. She wasn't used to airports. Her world was usually made up of paintbrushes, giggling children, and the smell of turpentine from her little art classroom at the community center. But today, she was on a mission, one she hadn't expected. Her phone buzzed again. It was Lily, her older sister, a confident, fast-talking flight attendant whose life always seemed more glamorous and hectic than Anna's. "Annie, please, you're my only hope," Lily pleaded over the line. "There's this important business guest, Mr. Raymond. I was supposed to pick him up for our company's event tonight, but my flight's been delayed. You just have to hold a sign with his name." "Easy." Anna hesitated, glancing around at the crowd of travelers pushing carts, hugging relatives, and chasing children. "Lily, I don't even know what he looks like." "Don't worry," Lily said, her voice muffled by airport noise. "He's an older gentleman, probably in a suit. Just be polite, okay? Oh, and the company car's already parked in the lot." The call ended before Anna could protest further. With a small sigh, she picked up the white card Lily had left for her earlier that morning. The words, "Mr. Raymond," were written in neat black ink. Anna smiled nervously. She could do this. The arrivals board flickered as passengers began pouring through the sliding glass doors. Anna stood holding the sign, trying to look professional. Her fingers trembled slightly. People passed her by. Tourists, families, business travelers, until one man caught her attention. He was tall, perhaps in his late 30s, with dark hair and an air of quiet authority. His expensive coat contrasted with his weary eyes. He paused when he saw her, scanning the sign. For a moment, their eyes met. Then he smiled, a gentle, polite curve of the lips. "You must be from the company," he said in a low, steady voice. Anna's mind raced. He looked important, just like Lily described. Maybe a little younger than she'd imagined, but definitely the part. She returned the smile, nodding. "Yes, I'm here to pick you up, Mr. Raymond. Please, call me Ethan," he said, extending his hand. His handshake was firm but warm, and something about his presence, composed yet lonely, made Anna feel unexpectedly calm. As they walked toward the exit, she caught his reflection in the glass door. His shoulders were strong, but there was something heavy in the way he carried himself, a kind of sadness that didn't belong to wealth or success. She didn't know it yet, but this small act, stepping in for her sister, holding that simple white sign, was about to change both their lives. Outside, the city waited, unaware that a mistake had just set destiny in motion. Sparkles. The drive from the airport began in silence. The hum of the city faded as Anna steered the car through the late afternoon traffic, her hands gripping the wheel tightly. She could feel the presence of the man beside her, calm, self-contained, but somehow distant, as though his thoughts were miles away. Ethan, or Mr. Raymond, as she still believed him to be, sat with one arm resting on the car door, his gaze lost in the blur of lights and motion. The gray sky mirrored the heaviness in his eyes. He looked like someone who carried invisible weight, the kind that doesn't show in posture but in the quiet moments between breaths. Anna cleared her throat gently. "So, how was your flight?" He turned his head slightly, as if coming back from far away. "Long," he said simply. Then, after a pause, he added, "but peaceful. The quiet helps me think." She smiled, trying to make conversation. "You must travel a lot for work." He nodded. "Too much, maybe. There are months when I forget what home looks like." Anna laughed softly. "I can't imagine that. I work with children. Every wall in my classroom is covered in paint and crayon drawings. My biggest trip is usually to the art supply store." That made him smile. A small, genuine one this time. "Children, huh, that sounds different. Different good or different bad?" She teased. "Different good," he replied. "They must keep your world colorful." The car filled with a comfortable silence after that, the kind that didn't feel awkward. She could sense his curiosity about her, though he said little. So she kept talking. About her students who painted dreams on scraps of cardboard, about her efforts to teach them that beauty didn't need money, only imagination. Ethan listened, and something inside him softened. He hadn't realized how much he'd missed hearing someone speak without an agenda. Most conversations in his world revolved around profit margins, contracts, and strategies, not kindness or children's laughter. When she talked, he felt warmth return to a part of him that had long gone cold. "Do you ever paint yourself?" he asked after a while. "Oh yes," Anna said with a spark in her eyes. "Mostly landscapes. The kind that make you breathe easier, like open fields or quiet sunsets. I think they remind me that peace still exists somewhere." Ethan turned to look at her then. Really look at her. The way her eyes brightened when she spoke, how her words carried sincerity, not performance. And for the first time in months, he felt a flicker of life stir in his chest. As they approached the hotel, she laughed at something silly she said, and he found himself laughing too. The sound felt strange in his own ears, rusty, almost forgotten. By the time she pulled up to the entrance, he realized he didn't want the ride to end. In the span of that short drive, a stranger's kindness had begun to melt the loneliness he had worn like armor for years. When the car rolled to a stop in front of the grand glass doors of the Meridian Hotel, Anna exhaled in quiet relief. She had done it. The pickup, the drive, the small talk, all without making a fool of herself. She turned to her passenger with a polite smile. "Here we are, Mr. Raymond. I hope the ride wasn't too long." Ethan smiled faintly, his voice gentle. "It was perfect, actually. Thank you, Anna." The way he said her name, calm, sincere, made her heart flutter just a little. She got out and helped him with his suitcase. The doorman hurried to assist, but Ethan waved him off with a simple nod of gratitude. Together, they entered the golden-lit lobby, the soft notes of piano music echoing through the space. The receptionist, a young woman in a crisp uniform, looked up with a professional smile. "Good evening, sir. May I have your name, please?" "Ethan Cole," he replied without hesitation, setting his bag beside him. Anna froze. For a moment, her brain couldn't process what she'd just heard. Ethan Cole, that wasn't the name on the card. Her heart began to race. The receptionist blinked in mild surprise. "Mr. Cole, we weren't expecting you until next week. Your suite isn't prepared yet. Should I make arrangements immediately?" Anna's cheeks turned pale. She looked at him, stammering, "Wait, you're not Mr. Raymond." Ethan tilted his head slightly, a hint of amusement lighting his otherwise tired eyes. "No," he said, chuckling under his breath. "I'm afraid not, and something tells me you didn't know that either." Her face burned red. "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. This is completely my fault. I was supposed to pick up a Mr. Raymond for my sister's company. She works in corporate travel, and I just..." He raised a hand gently, stopping her. "Hey, it's all right. Honestly, this might be the nicest mistake that's ever happened to me." Anna blinked, still flustered. "But you must have thought I was, well, unprofessional." He laughed. A deep, warm sound that caught her off guard. "Unprofessional? Not at all. You were kind. You talked to me like a person, not a client. That's rare." She didn't know what to say. The tension in her chest slowly loosened as she noticed something different in his expression, relief, maybe even gratitude. "I've been traveling for months," he said softly, glancing toward the tall windows. "Funerals, meetings, endless noise. And then suddenly, someone picks me up, smiles, and talks about art and children's dreams. It was the best mistake of my year." Anna felt her throat tighten. There was something deeply human in the way he said it, a hint of pain behind his composed demeanor. He turned back to her with a small, almost shy smile. "If I'm honest, Miss Anna, I think life wanted me to take the wrong ride today." And as the lobby lights shimmered against the marble floor, Anna realized, fate had just played its quiet, miraculous trick. For days after their strange encounter, Anna couldn't stop thinking about him, the quiet man with the kind eyes and the heavy silence. She had dropped him at the hotel, apologized again through a flurry of nervous words, and left believing that was the end of their accidental meeting. Yet, somewhere deep inside, a small ache lingered, a curiosity she couldn't explain. Ethan Cole, on the other hand, found himself haunted by the memory of that simple car ride. The way she laughed, the way her words painted warmth over the dull gray of his life, it was unlike anything he'd felt in years. His days were usually filled with meetings, numbers, and the cold glow of screens. But after meeting Anna, the world seemed softer, slower, somehow real again. 3 days later, when his business in the city was done, Ethan made a quiet decision. He didn't call his driver. He didn't schedule another meeting. Instead, he looked up the small community art center she had mentioned, the one she said was held together by hope, tape, and a lot of paint stains. When he arrived, the place was exactly as she had described, colorful chaos. Children ran around with paint on their fingers, and laughter bounced off the faded walls. Anna stood in the middle of the room, her hair tied back, helping a little boy fix the wing of a paper bird. "Try adding a little glue here," she said softly, completely unaware that someone was watching her from the doorway. When she finally looked up, her eyes widened in disbelief. "Mr. Cole," she blurted, then immediately laughed. "Or should I say, not Mr. Raymond." Ethan smiled, stepping closer. "I wanted to see where all that inspiration came from." The children instantly surrounded him, curious and fearless. "Are you Anna's friend?" one of them asked, tugging at his sleeve. Ethan knelt down, his tailored suit brushing the paint-splattered floor. "I suppose I am," he said warmly. That afternoon, something magical happened. The powerful CEO, used to commanding boardrooms and billion-dollar projects, spent hours surrounded by color and laughter. He helped the children paint a giant mural, clumsy brushstrokes and all, and when one little girl accidentally splashed blue paint on his sleeve, he only laughed. Anna watched him, her heart swelling. There was something profoundly beautiful about seeing a man like him, someone who seemed built of marble and distance, blending into this tiny, imperfect world with such grace. Later, when the children had gone home and the room was quiet again, Ethan lingered. "You know," he said softly, "I can't remember the last time I felt this human." Anna smiled gently. "Maybe that's what art does, reminds us of the pieces we forget." He looked at her then, eyes filled with gratitude and something deeper, a wordless connection neither of them dared name. And as the sunset spilled through the cracked windows, they both understood. Sometimes, a single act of kindness can open a door neither knew they needed to walk through. The last evening before Ethan's departure arrived quietly, wrapped in the amber glow of a fading sun. Anna stood outside the art center, watching the children run home with their paint-stained hands and wide smiles. The laughter faded down the street, leaving behind a peaceful stillness. She sighed contently, and yet, a part of her heart felt heavier than usual. Ethan had visited every afternoon since that first day. He brought new brushes, helped clean the messy tables, and told stories that made even the shyest kids giggle. But tomorrow, he was leaving. When he appeared at the gate, dressed casually for once, Anna smiled to hide the ache that had been building all day. "You're early," she teased, brushing a streak of green paint from her cheek. He smiled faintly, his hands tucked in his pockets. "I didn't want to miss saying goodbye." The words settled between them, soft but heavy. They walked together inside the small studio, where the mural the children had painted, a sky full of paper birds, stretched proudly across the wall. The light from the window made the colors shimmer like hope itself. Ethan ran his hand gently over the painted surface. "You've built something beautiful here," he said. "Not just the art, but what it does to people. It makes them feel alive." Anna's eyes softened. "It's not much. Half the roof leaks, and we never have enough paint. But the kids love it, so I keep it going." Ethan turned toward her. "You don't realize how rare you are, do you?" She blinked, caught off guard. "Rare," he nodded. "You give, even when no one's watching. You see the good in everyone, even in someone who walked into your life by accident." His voice faltered slightly. "Anna, you reminded me what it means to care again." For a moment, neither spoke. The air between them felt fragile, filled with unspoken feelings, gratitude, tenderness, something dangerously close to love. When he finally reached for her hand, it was warm and steady. "Thank you," he whispered. "For that car ride, for not treating me like a name or a number." She smiled sadly. "Maybe it was meant to happen, that mix-up at the airport." "Maybe," he said softly, his thumb brushing her knuckles. "Maybe fate sometimes gets it right through mistakes." The next morning, he was gone. A part of Anna felt empty, until a letter arrived a week later. No sender's name, just a note. Greater than, to the woman who reminded me of humanity, thank you for giving me color again. Attached was a donation receipt. Enough money to rebuild the entire art center, expand the classrooms, and fund art supplies for years. Tears filled Anna's eyes. She didn't need to read the signature to know who it was from. As she stood beneath the freshly painted mural, surrounded by children's laughter, she whispered softly, "Sometimes, the wrong person is exactly the right one life wanted you to meet." And with that, Anna smiled, her heart full, her world brighter, proof that one small act of kindness can change a life forever. Sparkles.